Lofi Poli Sci coming at you. Michael Pickering here talking our famous question, what's going on in the world today? And today we're continuing our look at development around the world by focusing on the Pacific island country of Tuvalu. What? Never heard of Tuvalu? Well, let me introduce you. Tuvalu is an island country in the Pacific Ocean. So follow me real quick. Close your eyes, pull up that global map. Start at Australia. Go north to the large island of Papua New Guinea. Then head straight east. You'll find Tuvalu there, just south of the equator. Or you can start in, Hawaii is northeast of Tuvalu by a lot of water, okay? Pacific Ocean, really big. But if you drew a line from Hawaii to Australia, across the Pacific Ocean, Tuvalu is about in the middle of those two, more or less, Now, Tuvalu has 9 main islands and an estimated population of about 12,000 people. And if you remember our list of smallest countries in the world by both population and geographic size, Tuvalu is on both of those lists, but a country nonetheless. So let's dive into those development indicators already. Looking at their World Bank data on GDP from 2000 to 2020, Tuvalu over the 20-year period increased its GDP by almost 3 times to $49 million in 2020, which ranked by country puts it almost in last place at around number 200 for the lowest GDP in the world. Now, GDP per capita via the World Bank for the same time period, we see the same trend in per capita as we saw in GDP, increasing threefold over the 20-year span to $4,100 a person a year. Now, this puts Tuvalu at number 127 of the 200 countries in the world. And that's a major difference in placement when looking at 2 different measures of economic development of a country, going from almost 200th ranking by GDP to 127th ranking for GDP per capita. And it's a great example of why we use more than one indicator when talking about development of any country. Now to Gini for income inequality. We have one data point, one piece of datum from the World Bank. In 2010, the World Bank reported that Tuvalu's income inequality score via Gini was at a 39.1, which would place it at about the 93rd ranking globally. But that data point is 12 years old, so we can't really be sure if that's still accurate. A lot has changed since 2010. Now, moving forward to the Human Development Index from the United Nations, HDI. Tuvalu doesn't have any HDI data at all. None. So, I had to do a little math in comparison of GNI per capita with PPP, life expectancy, and average educational attainment, and then find matches in HDI that were similar. So HDI is those 3 things, and Tuvalu's GNI per capita with PPP in 2020 was about $6,000 per person per year. And HDI also has life expectancy, which Tuvalu's is about 68 years old. And lastly, HDI also has average years of educational attainment, which Tuvalu's is about 10.2 years. And using that, and then also finding data on the countries of Vanuatu and Kiribati, which are both Pacific Island countries, Vanuatu being a bit southwest of Tuvalu and Kiribati being a bit northeast of Tuvalu. But both of these countries have similar scores in all 3 of those categories as Tuvalu. And finding their HDI by the United Nations, Kiribati has a 0.623 and Vanuatu has a 0.597. So the range of rankings is from 132nd place to 141 out of about 200 countries. But caution, while I think what we did is pretty all right, if I were to be publishing this for academic purposes, I would be sure to go a lot deeper into the data. But it does give us a quick roundabout figure to go off of for HDI. Now, what about Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index? What does the organization say about corruption in Tuvalu? Nothing. There is no data for the country. There's not even a listing, which means of the 13 sources Transparency International uses for data to compile their index, 3 being needed in order to include a country. This means there aren't 3 data sources to create an index for Tuvalu. That means no one's really covering corruption in Tuvalu, at least not from the sources that Transparency International uses. And what about Reporters Without Borders and their ranking of countries and territories by media freedoms? Nothing. There is no data for the country. Once again, they're not even listed. But our last development indicator, what about Freedom House? Looking at how many civil liberties and civil rights the country or the people of a country enjoy? Tuvalu receives a 93 out of 100, ranking it 30th in the world, tied with Kiribati, Andorra, the United Kingdom, Austria, and several others. Nice, Tuvalu. Very, very nice. Now let's crunch all this together and see what we get for Tuvalu. Economically, they're growing, and quite fast, too, tripling their income over the past 20 years. But they're still very much in the developing areas category. Their income inequality is about middle of the road, but that stat is dated. And their HDI is under middle of the road and definitely in the developing area category as well, though we need to take a much closer look at the data for compiling that number to actually get something more accurate. For corruption, we don't have anything. Media freedoms, nothing, although media is a little bit incorporated into Freedom House. And Freedom House? Tuvalu is one of the freest countries in the world. So overall, Tuvalu is a healthy democracy where its people enjoy a lot of freedoms, a developing country where the standard of living is increasing, but outside of that, we don't really have that much data on them at the moment. Although if we took a deep dive, we could probably figure out some more things and find some more data as well. Although, that's a really good starting point. It does tell us a lot about a little island country in the Pacific of only 12,000 people that many of us never knew existed. Help the effort, people. Tuvalu's a country. Let others know it too. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. And do you have your own idea for a country in the spotlight? Write on in. Let us know. And it's not a cliche or a catchphrase. It's a lifestyle. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Talk to you soon, Lofi listeners. Pickering, signing off.